Next, we will discuss about what is class and what is object and instance. Object and instance both are same, but we will see the blueprint of class and how we can create instances. Instances is nothing but objects of that class. So we will see all those concepts now. Object, comma, class, comma, instance. So what is object and what is class and what is instance? For example, in before lectures we have seen a real world thing is called a object, right? A person or a vehicle or a bank, all those comes under object. And whatever the operations, business operations those objects are doing, those comes under methods of that class. Now we will take an example, like we will take student example. This is my student object. For my student object, I have to create class. So for student object, this is my student. This is my student object. My student object, what data will be having for my student object? A student can have student number, yes, number, and he can also have student name. All these comes under our variables of our student object. And student will be having some we will think this student is taking some course, so course name. Student also consists of course name. And fees. These are the variables in our student object. So how you will create this real world student object who is having data like student number, student name, course and fees? This is our student object. We have to develop for this student object with data. We have to create project. First, whenever you see this, what you should think is, first you have to think about object name. Then you have to think about what are the business operations this object will do. Those are comes under your class methods. Whenever you see this object name student, then first you have to create a class with the name student. Class student. This is my student class. So what this student consists of data, what are the data this student consists? Student will be having some data, right? So the data is nothing but these variables. You have to store this data inside student class. How you will store? We have seen in our variables and types of variables how to create variable. So I'm creating int SNO variable. Next, student name. For student name, I'm giving string yes name. And next we have string course. Variable name should be small letters. And next, the student consists of fees. Fees is like which data type you will use for fees. Fees will be having some 1000, 2000, 3000 or some amount. For that you have to use double data type, double fees. So these are my variables inside student class to store data of this student object. This is my student class which consists of data to store student related data. So technically you can call it as blueprint. This is the blueprint. So we have seen about object and class. So we have taken example object as a student. Student will be having some data like student number, yes and no, and student name, yes name, and course and fee. The student want to join in some course, that's the reason I have given variables with name, course and fee. So this variables, all this data should be stored in variables. So first, by seeing this object student, you have to create a class student. For this class student, student will be having some data to store. Where you will store this data? You have to store in variables. That's the reason I have created 4 variables with same names, yes and no, yes name, course and fees. So, and by seeing this student object, so many students will be enrolling in courses. For example, we will take Java course. So many students will enroll in Java course, right? Students will be, for example, we have 3 students. We have 3 student objects. I am having 3 students. So I'm having 3 students for my student object. So three students will be having some names. I will give some names like some John. We will give some name like Remy. And some Paul. These are my three students. I'm having three students object. For these three students object, my class should provide data for these three students with different data. John will be having some different data with student name, student number, student name, course and fees. And Remy also will be having different data like student name, student number, course and fees. These three students will be having some different data, right? For these three students, I have to create objects. How you will create object in class? By using new keyword, new student. This is how you will create object for your class. We will create one more object. Here I have created two objects. When you create two objects by using new keyword of this class, internally it will create two memories. We have seen in heap area, right? In heap area, it will create memory for objects. In heap area, it will create memory for these two objects. Inside this memory, what will be stored? In our class, whatever the variables we have, it will store inside our memory. I have student number and I'm having student name. And I'm having course name. And also I am having fees. All these are variables in my class. It will create memory for our all variables, right? All this we have discussed in our variables and types of variables and JVM architecture. Here we are seeing how we can create real world object in our programming world. For this all variables, it will create memory. Student number, student name, course and fees. And for second object also it will create student number, student name, course and fees. This is how it will create memory for our objects. When you create object with new keyword, memory will be created like this. This new keyword with student object will be pointing to this memory. And our second object is pointing to this memory. So when you create new keyword with student object, for John student you are creating this object, first object. How it will store your data in your memory? It will store student number sum1, student number has John, course is some Java, and fees some 100. This is how it will store student object in our memory. This is my John object memory. So what we have done is we have student object with some data, S number, S name, course and fees. I'm explaining once again. Wherever if you have any doubts, then understand it once again. You will clear your doubt. So for this student object with this data, I have to create objects. Student will not be one student, right? Students will be so many people. So many students will be having in course. That's the reason I have created 3 objects. For example, I have created 3 students with John, Remy and Paul. I am having 3 students. So for these students, I have to create objects and those objects will be having separate data. For that reason, we have created class with student and with variables. These variables will be having data. So I have to create John object now. How we can create with new keyword, we can create student object. That's the reason I'm using new with student. Whenever you create object with a new keyword, what it will do, it will create a memory in heap area and it will store these variables inside this heap area, S number, S name, course and fees. So in our before lectures we have seen some, for example, student S1 is equal to new student. I'm having S1 reference with this new student. By using S1 dot S number is equal to 100, S1 dot S name is equal to John, S1 dot course is equal to Java. Those all we have seen in before lectures. Here I don't have some place, that's the reason in class I did not write. In our next example I will show you. Just understand how it will create objects. After storing all this data, then this new student object will be pointing to my memory, and this inside this memory my John object related data will be stored. S number 1, S name John, course Java, fee 100. Same thing will be happened for all the objects whatever you create by using new keyword. And when we see from real world, we will call this student and this student objects as an object. But when you come to programming world, all these objects we will call as a instances. These are the instances of our class, student class. This is my student object. These are my student objects. For this student object, I have to create class. That's the reason I have created a class student. This is my blueprint. By using this blueprint, I have to create memories for this student objects. So many students will be there. For this class students, I have to create so many instances. Instances is nothing but in real world we will call it as objects. So that's the reason we call this objects as the instances in our Java. So for my second object, I will create memory, some student number 2. Student name Paul, course some Python. Let us take Java itself, Java, because I don't have space. You can write any course. Is some 100. So we have created data for our second object. This Paul object will be pointing to my second instance. This is how instances will be created by using class. Instances are nothing but objects. So we have discussed what is object, what is class, and what is instance.